Good evening, everyone. This is the July 17, 2023 meeting for the residents in Forest Drive. All stand for allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so first order of business is an executive session held on June 21 for personnel and on July 11 for finance. First order of business is the conditional use hearing continued from June 18 of 2023 for 10-6 shop. Mark, if I can turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anyone here on behalf of the applicant? Why don't you come forward? To start, this was an advertised conditional use hearing for the last meeting. We opened the record, but because we didn't have a court reporter, I'm going to make a note for the exhibits on the record. Again, this is the application for conditional use under section 390-98 B1A for a stormwater management facility in a steep slope conservation district. And I'm going to have to just defer maybe to you on this.
It's pronounced Tang-Sip-Xiang.
Sip-Xiang. Yes, sir. We'll just call them the applicants.
There you go.
First side of the hearing.
I call them Tang.
Okay.
And she prefers that.
So we opened the hearing on June 19th. It was continued. For the record tonight, I'm going to make a note that the application is Exhibit T1. The public notice is Exhibit T2. The proof of publication of the public notice is Exhibit T3. The affidavit of posting is Exhibit T4. The LTL, the Chester County Plan Commission review letter dated May 17, 2023 is Exhibit T5. The LTL engineering review letter dated May 11, 2023 is Exhibit T6. The Planning Commission meeting minutes dated May 18, 2023, that is Exhibit T7. And we have an aerial of the property that I'm going to add for purposes of the record. That would be Exhibit T8. I did ask at the last meeting whether or not anyone would like to request party status for this application. Party status is reserved for individuals that have a particular relationship to the property, such as living or owning property directly adjacent to or across the street from the applicant's property. And so with that, I'll ask the question again, would anyone like to request party status for the application? It's let the record reflect that no individual is making that request. So I'll turn it over to the applicant for a presentation.
Thank you very much. My name is Brad.
Well, why don't you just, why don't we have you start?
Very good.
Raise your hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So, thank God.
Can you state your name for us, please?
My name is Bradford Grohl. That's G-R-A-U-E-L.
Mr. Rowe, you represent the applicants here tonight.
Yes, sir, and I apologize on their behalf, but they're out of the country at the moment. Make the next meeting, so I'm it. My name is Bradford Grohl. I am the owner of OTM LLC. We are a surveying, land planning, and design firm. We're out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I've been in the business for 47 years and have been a licensed professional land surveyor since 1989. Just a little bit of my background. We're currently working with Mr. and Mrs. Tang on a property that's located, actually it's a little over 19 acres. It's 19.027 acres. It's located along Flowing Springs Road, and it was purchased in September of 2021 from Mr. William and Mrs. Kim Coyle. And I do have a copy of that if you'd like it.
Shall we make that an exhibit A1?
That's fine.
Okay.
I do have several smaller versions of the plan I'd like to pass out to the board. Mr. and Mrs. Tang are interested in constructing a single-family home on this property. Note that it is known as lot number 2 of the previous subdivision. That was approved, it was the Sherman Perkins subdivision that was approved in 2002. I do have a copy of that also as an exhibit.
Okay, so this is the previous subdivision plan. It says plan of subdivision for Sherman Perkins. It's dated March 1st, 2002. So we'll make that exhibit A2.
Thank you, sir. Property currently is zoned residential conservation, and the proposed use of single-family residential dwellings is used by right in the underlying zone. Again, the owners are looking to construct one single-family home that will be accessed via an existing driveway, which is a shared driveway. They will be cutting off that driveway down to their own property and constructing their home. I'd like to also cast out for the board's view. I do have several architectural renditions of the proposed home. I'll note to date that the applicants have applied for and received approval by the Department of Environmental Protection and the Chester County Conservation District for the stormwater management on this site. The disturbance is over an acre, so we need to go through the NPDES permit process, and so they have recently received that approval, and I do have a copy of that here.
Okay, so for the record, this is a June 5th, 2023 letter from Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection granting their review of applicants.
Like it would be issuing the permit.
Yes, permit.
Yes. I also note that the property is currently underneath a conservation easement administered by the French and Pickering Conservation Trust. And plans have been reviewed and approved by them. And I do have a letter of approval from the French and Pickering Conservation Trust.
Okay, so we'll mark this as A4, and this is a letter dated January 18th, 2023, from the French and Pickering Conservation Trust, indicating that they approve of your plans.
Thank you. So just to give you a quick overview, and I'm going to refer to the plan up here that you all have copies of it. This plan here is an entirety of the property. The areas shaded in brown are the precautionary slopes, which are 15% to 25%. The areas in green are the prohibited slopes, which are slopes of 25% or greater. Prohibited slopes, you're not allowed to do anything. As you can see, a majority of the tract is in those two slope categories. And underneath the trust agreement, the conservation easement is limited to the front 7 acres of the property, which would be the 7 acres to the, sorry, I gotta get better glasses, east, to the west. To the west, that is the conservation easement that they're allowed to construct in, and as part of the conservation easement, they're only allowed to develop or clear 3 acres within that 7 acres. The remainder of the property remains untouched. There's also some trail easements and some access agreements that they have to maintain trails and access for the public across their property. They've agreed to do that. We placed the dwelling in the area of the conservation easement that's permitted. We've reviewed everything with the conservation people, the Conservation Trust, about the tree clearing, and again, we've received all the approvals. We do have yet to address a couple of concerns by your township engineer, but respectfully, we were kind of waiting to see if we get through this first and then proceed from there. So, the reason we're here for tonight is there's an area just below the house. Right here, that we're proposing a stormwater management basin in. And it is located, a portion of it is located in those precautionary slopes. Now, the majority of the basin isn't, the bottom of the basin isn't, but we need to grade in order to build it, and we'll be going into those precautionary slopes. So vast majority, probably about 50% of the basin is not in that slope area. Again, we received reviews and approvals by Conservation District and DEP on this position, and so therefore we're here tonight to ask for relief. And I'll answer any questions.
Were there any questions?
This is really not germane to the issue, but you said shared driveway, and I'm not seeing on the map here what driveway, who you're sharing with.
It's the people to the west.
It would be for the property of Murphy and for the property of McDonald. That was established by, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to be coming in right off the entrance for about 60 feet, and then we're going to be cutting onto our own property.
Okay. And the second question is, what is the slope of grading proposed to put the dwelling?
It's about 17%.
17%.
And I pause that because dwellings are permitted in that slope category. It's only the stormwater basins that aren't.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Any
And so you mentioned the trail is eased already.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that included in the document?
Yes, yes. In fact, I can,
So that's just part of the easement that exists in the property today.
I do have a copy of it to submit to the township. As an exhibit.
That's part of the paper.
No problem, ma'am.
Where's the trail coming? Okay, I respect that you said there exists. I just wanted.
There is one that exists. There is one that exists. I was kind of shocked when we were out there surveying about a year ago when the dogs were running through chasing foxes and they were coming through.
That's not being
But
but there is.
yeah, and they need to maintain that as for the general public.
And you're aware.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, so just so that we're clear for the record, we have an assignment, an assumption of a conservation easement to French and Hickory Conservation Trust. So make that exhibit A5.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I just have one question. It looks like the area you're proposing to have the stormwater management facility is basically surrounded by the precautionary prohibited steep slopes.
Correct.
So essentially what you're saying is there's really nowhere else for the stormwater management.
That's correct. And on top of that, we actually had to do soils testing as part of the design, and that was the best place we could find the best soils to do the design.
And you mentioned it's 17% slope and it's precautionary slopes, I guess, are 15 to 25, so we're at the low end of that.
Correct.
That's where the house was, but we have the same slope.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
For the stormwater management?
Yes, yes, ma'am. We're talking anywhere between 17 and 18% slope. Note that the township ordinance allows you to create up to slopes up to 33% when you're building. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those.
You're about halfway to that.
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
No, I think you've covered the salient points.
And had you had any additional recommendations or conditions in your letter?
Brad summarized everything accurately, in my opinion. We felt the normal process of county and DEP reviewing and issuing the permit, the grading plan is going to be finalized to meet township standards, and we felt there was control of the procedures
They cover it, so we don't need anything additional.
are adequate. It's a very routine construction.
Thank you.
There's nothing else to report. Anything from the public in comment? Okay, anything further from the applicant? No, sir. Conclude your case, Al? Yes, sir. Okay, so with that, then, we'll close the record. We've got 45 days to issue a written decision.
Understood.
Like the next report.
Understood. That's fine. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Other things we're looking forward to having.
There's they're so excited. But she calls me weekly.
Okay, we're close on our issue.
Yes.
All right, so next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for June 19th. Entertained motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 19th, 2022 meeting.
I will second that.
Any questions?
Of course.
Yeah.
George, I'll check out what you get the email. The minutes weren't posted. I didn't see them. Are they posted?
No, I didn't put them on. I told Sarah about it today because they're draft. And actually, what I found out at an administrative training that I went to is that the draft minutes should really not be posted until they're approved. When they're approved, then they get posted.
Okay.
Is that,
Why
does
do
it
we
have
have
to be
meeting
done?
then?
Mhm.
I mean, is that a
No,
requirement, or it's something we're allowed to do?
you can post them, but if anything that's used in the draft by someone that would claim that that was incorrect or correct, they can come back at the township with that. So,
So that's at the prerogative then of the board, if we decide that we do want to post them? even though they're
you
draft?
can,
Okay.
yeah.
So the issue is legal exposure to post draft minutes.
It could
If
be.
there's even if they're marked draft.
Yeah, even if they're marked draft.
There's no requirement that you have to post draft minutes. It's essentially a work in progress. It's not a final document. So,
We certainly set the expectation, though, that our website presents the information that the draft minutes will be there with the agenda and everything like the work done. So, heretofore, we made them available exactly for most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
I guess we can discuss it amongst us, what we want to do going forward.
it's really
I
important.
personally am not a fan of holding off with, yeah, we can put the agenda. Can I decide that now?
No, just, we sit down and discuss it. So.
So did you decide not to post them and, or is that
No,
your
no,
word?
right now, we're going to decide later whether we're going to put them.
I'm going to assume that once we approve this, they'll go up tonight.
Well,
Yeah.
they have to.
Well, not
That's-
tonight, but
that's-
tomorrow.
That's a requirement. Draft minutes we've been doing for a number of years, so. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a couple of comments where my understanding of the minutes is their purpose is to be a record of the board actions.
Correct.
In the meeting.
Correct.
These minutes have some asides in them. For example, CC note, this item is also noted under Mr. Elbridge's initial first component. And that's extraneous, and we didn't talk about it in the meeting, or if you again talking about the same subject. So that sort of thing, I would like us to be more careful in our minutes to just stick to the meeting and get to it from.
Yep. As you know, for decades, the minutes were atrocious.
And we've been trying to get it down to the.
Getting there, Sarah.
Required.
Yep, we're getting there.
We just went way backwards.
There's a lot more detail now. And I think it's out there, detail.
There's this, I'm not talking about the detail at all, we could talk about that because Bernie and I were trying to get it down to just talking about the facts. But there are things in here that just didn't happen to me, like the location of the Markham, letter. It wasn't posted before the meeting. We could announce the night where it was posted, but it shouldn't be in minutes of a meeting, and it wasn't really there. That's all, it's just the meeting,
Like
the
this-
minutes of that meeting.
Well, what they had here was that I read into the document and
That's true,
but
that was true,
then
that's
they,
good.
if they're not gonna say where to find that letter, then they should publish that
I think we said it's going to be posted soon, but we didn't post it until we read it. So that's all, it's just, that was, the minutes should be what happened at the
Sounds like
meeting.
we'll have to have a meeting about this, but I would make one comment on it that I'm pretty sure I called her Senator Ruth, not Miss Smith.
Aaron,
Barry Luber, 1012 Potsdam Pike, Chester Springs. Bernie, real quick, what do you mean by the minutes were atrocious? What do you mean by that?
they didn't follow the established procedure for minutes. They did everything but. There was all this, he said, she said, I didn't say that, you didn't say that. They were ridiculous.
Well, the
You
established,
were here then, so you were written, sure.
oh, yeah, no, the established procedure is in fact, all you have to do is say who spoke and what the subject matter was about. So what you're saying is atrocious is that people actually understood what was discussed. So there was a discussion and people understood. I'm not saying it has to be a transcript, but for years, it was stripped down to nothing under another administration. Then it got better under that administration, and then it just got stripped down a little bit again. Then when the new administration came in, it was very good. I mean, you got a feel for exactly what was discussed instead of that this subject was spoken about, which is all that's required. You're absolutely right. But it doesn't say you can't do more. It's just saying this is the minimum you have to do. So if atrocious is that the reading public might actually understand what everything was about, I don't find that atrocious. I don't know that these people out here would either when they go back to read to jog their brains.
Welcome to your group.
That's not opinion, it's a fact. Thank you.
All right, we have a vote on this. I'm asking for a vote. All in favor? And I'll abstain as I wasn't here. Okay. Moving on, announcements. Thank you letter to the West Vincent Township Police Department and administrative staff. Sergeant, would you please come in and speak about this letter?
I'm sorry, what do you have?
There's a letter that was sent to
It was a thank you letter from Mr. Cat.
Would you like?
No, we just, some of the residents, who's a disabled veteran, if a, disabled person's parking space,
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks for the work. Okay, well, while you're up there, why don't you, okay, we'll just take this out.
okay, the monthly police report, June 2023 training. We have car seat safety training, critical incident debriefs, certified emergency medical technician. Summary totals, number of calls for service 183, number of crimes investigated 7, number of arrests 0, number of traffic stops 50, number of accidents investigated
Very good. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Good night. All right, so now we'll go back to, announcements, the township's Red Cross blood drive on August 3rd. Jackie, you know that?
Kathy's leave. Blood drive?
Blood drive.
Yeah. Set it up. Oh, who set it up? I think Christine is.
Chris, would you come up and tell us about the blood drive? There you go.
More information is going to be coming from Renee Cantarero, who's doing the major organization of this. But on August 3rd, from 1 to 6 p.m., the American Red Cross is going to be here in the township building doing blood donations that day. So you'll start seeing a chance to register and sign up and donate your blood. They haven't done it here, it's my understanding, in a while, but they'd like to get back to coming back into the township and serving the residents.
And it will be in this room.
It's supposed to be in this room, so they'll be in starting at 12 o'clock to set up, and it will run from 1 to 6.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, reports, treasurer's report.
Thank you, sir. The ARPA fund balance as of June 30th, 2023 was $128,072.10. The general fund had a balance of $1,293,813.18. The open space fund was $3,272,224.75. Liquid fuels was $421,858.65. Capital road fund, $3,430,393.45. Capital project is $3,385,281.43. The capital equipment fund was $361,415.98. The sewer fund was $182,207.52. And the rebuild fund was $824,005.58 for a total fund balance of $12,299,272.64.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, next is our manager's report.
The expenditure.
What do you want to talk?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, we need to approve the expenditure.
Well, but coming behind the report, which is broader than the expenditure.
My name is John Elby, 1634 Hilltop Road. So when to the treasurer, the finances of the month. I would note that the profit posted on the general fund for the month of June was $131,000. I think that kind of activity is fairly important. Some of the things that happened there was a negative $74,000 in property taxes and income. The police expenditures were negative for $121,000 for the month. There was a reversal of the purchase of some equipment purchases. And the police salaries were shown as $37,000 for the month versus the normal month of $70,000. I also noticed particularly interest in open space accounts monthly. Normally was about $10K per month, and then it dropped to $1K per month. And it dropped again, it dropped also in general fund. And the other funds sort of hard to follow, so I didn't do that. But what I find is that the township dropped what they call the sweep account. And in my analysis, I think that'll cost us $40,000 a month. $240,000. And what? And I think it should be, I think that's a big drop. I think it should be addressed. Any thoughts on that? I have no idea.
Well, what I will say is that
the previous administration instructed me to get rid of the sweep accounts because of the bookkeeping issues that we were having at the time. And the plan was to go out for an RFP for a new bank, one that deals specifically with government accounts. And that RFP was given to the previous manager and it just never went anywhere. So eventually we want to get out and get an RFP out for a new bank so that we can have money markets. The sweep accounts with Victory Bank were difficult because they would sweep money out, but then they would sweep little bits back in here and there to maintain a certain balance. And previous bookkeepers didn't understand how to keep those accounts, and that's why we had all those issues with the bookkeeping. So they're all been straightened out, so now we've got to look forward to getting a new bank and getting some money markets put in place.
Okay, well, in the meantime, it's costing us $40,000 a month to bill it. And the sweep accounts, they're fairly common. And yes, you have to address how to reconcile them, but it's not difficult.
It's not, but
It's done all the time.
predated me, so.
But in the prior administration, there was so much confusion and unknown. I'm not surprised they just dropped it and never mentioned we're going to lose $40,000 a month in our new direction. Let's see. And again, the allocation of funds between the general fund and the open fund, I would say are still not correct. We did get a letter from Keystone Flex that says they're always send us money between 67 and 69% allocation between the two accounts, but our accounts don't reflect that.
Okay, well, Mr. Eldridge, they do direct deposits into our open space and our general fund. I don't put those numbers in. They send me a sheet saying this is what we put in the general fund and this is what we put in the open space, and that's what's reported in our QuickBooks and on our reports. So those numbers come from Keystone. They are the tax collector. I can't change those numbers.
Okay, but I don't understand why. They also had said we had sent you $585,000 as of April in the general fund, and it wasn't reflected there. And they also said it's always between around 66.7%. I've asked administrators, or I've asked managers would say, no, there's contractors that work in and out of the township. That was all irrelevant. It didn't happen. And so I think he would have allowed it.
I don't think we allow it. As a tax collector, they collect the money and they allocate it to us. And I'd be happy to show you the sheets and share them with you so you can see what they give me every month. It's usually twice a week. I get the open space one in the general, and it has a number on it that they directly deposit into those accounts.
I guess then one other on the bills list for approval of expenditures. We've gone over that, and it was a nice improvement to have just the bills. But as I noted, that we showed 2 months worth, repeating every month, once every month.
No, I go from date to date. So last month we cut the checks off on June 12th. So then this time it ran from June 13th to July 17th. You can see that on the expenditures list. It says right up top here. May 13th.
I thought it was all wrong, but like 5 instead of 6 somewhere.
Okay, well, my phone is out. Yeah, we don't duplicate the months. We combine it from date to date.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, see here it says 5.
Yeah.
It's a mistake.
Well, that's a mistake on the date.
Yeah.
Okay, I had one comment about the format. Right now, the memo field is fairly small and is sometimes truncated. I think when you create this final bill presentation, I think what people in this room care about is the date, the memo field, the account. Probably don't care about the split or, some of the other columns that are taking up space.
Okay.
So,
Well,
or you could put, I don't know if you could put them on separate lines. That would also.
yeah, I tried to do the landscape, and then I was getting a lot of flack because some of the pages were landscape and some of them weren't. I did the landscape because you can get all the information on there. So I can go back to doing that, but with the understanding that, you know, someone would,
Yeah.
I can't.
Well, I'd rather have the information than have it there and have a chance of reading it, or there's no chance to know it's truncated. I don't know.
You haven't yet, I'll be happy to do that.
And I guess the only other comment, if we really are giving up 40K a month, that's $500,000 a year, that's a lot.
Yeah, like I
That's a
said,
lot.
I prepared an RFP to go out for new banks, and it was given to the previous administration. And he dropped the ball, so, you know, I've only been doing this for a couple weeks. It's on high on my priority list to get to, so we will get out there and get that done soon.
Kirk?
Kirk Ragland, 668 Bush Run Road. I have a question about the liquid fuels bill fund. I guess that's a fund. So is this an annual fund that just,
These are liquid fuels taxes that are collected by the state
okay,
through tolls and gas, and then they divvy them up amongst all the municipalities based on street-owned, township-owned roads as opposed to state-owned roads. So it depends on how many linear mileage you have of township-owned roads, depends on how much money you get, so it varies from year to year.
okay. It says that, this has nothing to do with operations, liquid fuel usage.
No, it's the liquid fuels fund, it's used mostly for, road repair.
Okay.
Maggie, do you have your hand?
No.
No, okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the expenditures list for the capital funds in the amount of $1,022,299.36.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so at this point, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
I think we should take John's comments to heart, and then see George makes a good point about this, when it takes up a lot of space and repair for you. So I'm not talking about the data on the reports, everyone believing John and George on that. But it is confusing to me why we have checks that were previously approved and signed on this list being added to the total bills for that time period. And what's not now on what would you call a checks list, it's only the general fund. So it doesn't reflect, liquid fuels checks or, checks from, what's it called, the escrow account, they call it rebuild, but so their escrow checks being issued, they're not, they're in no longer report, but they're not reflected in list of checks. And the only thing is hard.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, manager's report.
Okay, the first business is to adopt resolution 12-2023, establishing the Clean Energy Transition Team, known as the CETT Ad Hoc Committee.
Did you have a further report other than this is under new business?
No, this is my report.
Oh, this is your report. All right, then we'll,
So there's no manager's report to the public, is what you're saying.
Now, this is my manager's report. So John always did it because I was there on it.
okay, we'll straighten that out later. Building department permits to the report.
Yeah, we decided to include it. New hose were $4,081.55. Alterations and additions were $3,513. Solar, $304.50. Miscellaneous, looks like miscellaneous fees for $189, for a total of $8,088.05. A zoning permit was added at the last minute for $1,800, which brought the total to $9,888.05.
Thank you. Any discussion? I have a question. Go ahead.
What is the solar fees again?
This was prepared by the code department, so I don't have that paperwork in front of me.
Did you mention the number?
Yeah, we collected $304 in permit fees for solar.
Are you considering waiving solar permit fees?
I don't have any information on the solar fees, so.
Okay.
In the future, I expect to get that recommendation from our clean energy transition.
Okay, on to new business. Adopt resolution 12-2023, establishing clean energy transition team ad hoc committee.
I think we need to take that. Because we had promised a meeting with them, and we have not had a chance to do that, so out of respect for the commission, I think we could do that.
I agree, they asked to talk to people about, they sent in a full page of comments they wanted to talk about, and I believe we need to have that conversation.
Okay, perfect.
Not just that, in our previous response to you, we specifically said we cannot meet prior to July 17th. Today's July 17th.
Okay.
We're not supposed to meet.
Yeah. So we
And
can
we
do it.
didn't meet.
And by the way, you got your display updated. Good work. To the rest of the gang.
Good.
Yeah, and hopefully we can meet timely enough so we can get this squeezed off for next time.
Is there an urgency?
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
I think you want to spend your money. That's what I heard.
Okay, I'll have your new business number 6, approved payment of $158,270.96 for the 2022 sewer hauling to Quincy Homes for Quincy Chester Springs. Do I have a motion?
Sure. I'll make that motion. You read the whole one number already. Okay, thank you.
And I second that.
Any discussion? Done.
Number 1634, so here's a bill of $158,000 from last year. We were billing, we paid them $25,000 at one point last year, but stopped that ongoing payment apparently. Is this something we had always agreed to do, and they waited until June to send us a bill?
No, we have an agreement with them, that I was not aware of, and the previous manager told me about it like a week and a half ago, because Mr. Kruger sent me an email asking for the payment. So I asked him what it was about, and so I got copies of the agreement, so we have an agreement with them to pump and haul the sewers from the course of Chester Springs. And they were to be paid through the end of 2022 because we sold the rights to that in 2023 to BWC instead. So this is the last payment to them. He did not get paid at all in 2022.
We paid them $25,000 in 2022,
And yeah, he didn't get paid for the whole year.
not for the whole year.
This is the remainder of what we owe.
We got a portion of that.
Anyone else?
So was the transfer completed in 2022? So the only bill we have for sewage going forward is for the campus?
Well, whatever's left in the sewer fund, I don't know if we owe that to Levon Valley or if that's on ours. I gotta go, Bucks County. I gotta go look at the agreement and see, because I know John had mentioned that we were supposed to turn our financials over to them, but never happened.
So do we know when the official transfer
It's good transfer.
I know that'll be critical when she's looking at the program.
Well, we definitely owe them this money.
Yeah, we don't owe the money in 2023, because that's when it was sold, so. And he wasn't looking for that, he was just looking for 2022.
I agree to the motion.
Okay, got discussion, all in favor? Okay, number 7, consider credit card merchant services agreement with Citadel Credit Union. Jackie, you speak to that.
Yes, we have a lot of residents come in and ask if they can pay for their permits with credit card. And up till now, we've never accepted credit cards because there's an administrative fee and some cost with it. But it also came to my attention that we have a charging station in the parking lot for an electric car. But it's free electric because they can't get the credit card machine to work. So whoever uses it gets electric courtesy to the township. So we thought, Citadel came by and they offered us a pretty good deal on this. We could do it in 2 different ways. You can do a 30-month subscription, a 48-month subscription, and their swiping charge is 2.6%. Most retail companies charge 3%. So we would just put a 2.6% added administrative fee on anything that went through a credit card, so that would cover our costs and give the residents the opportunity to use credit card if they so choose.
Now that pump outside, that was supposed to be free for a time period, but I would think it's long since lapsed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would be okay.
Well, I mean, we can certainly leave it that way.
What would be nice is to know how much
Well,
it's costing.
Mike told us that there's one person that will plug their phone in and just leave it overnight. 3 people, and they just plug it in and leave it in overnight. So I don't know how they can determine how much electricity.
What will cause the bills? What do we charge for?
Well, we get a big PICO bill, but it doesn't itemize that particular circuit.
And then if it was moved to credit card, it would no longer appear in our bills. So,
Right. So then
what's the issue?
right.
So it's supposed to be tracking the
It's supposed to be usage.
It's a consideration,
Okay, so
We need to make a motion about that?
I would suggest that we make a motion to approve it. You're confident that Citadel is the way to go?
Yeah, I checked around and it's a good deal.
Okay, so I entertain a motion.
Sure. I've got another question.
Okay, I believe, we'll make a motion to consider credit card merchant services agreement with Citadel Credit Union.
Sarah?
I will second that.
Okay.
And then ask if we ask council to review the agreement between the township and the credit card company.
Yeah, as soon as I get that, I need to go back and tell them we're interested and, once I get these documents, I'll forward them more.
Would it be better to approve it after we had council's opinion?
That's at the pleasure of the board. You can make it subject to approval. Wait until you have the agreement. Whatever your day.
I said, for one, you would amend your motion to say subject to March review.
Like little thing, or just say that?
Okay, for the record.
Okay, sure. So I would like to consider credit card merchant service agreement with Citadel Credit Union, upon review of council.
Review and approve it.
Yes,
And you have heard my council second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Consider a lease for cell towers. That's what we're going to go.
Well, we were approached by, Valor, to put in 2 cell towers, and they had provided plans and had been working with the previous administration and I believe the board. And, I did have some discussions with them, and we went back and forth and negotiated, and they did, agree to come up to $500 for each additional carrier after the first. And the first being the lease would be $18.50 a month, and then there would be a 10% increase annually for that. So we came up from 200 to 500 for each additional carrier. So it's something for the board to consider. I know they'd like to get moving on this, but I understand that if we are considering putting one up in another area of the township, we need to get some approvals.
Do we know if that cost structure is predicated by doing two, because we don't have approval for the second one yet?
I don't know, I believe she was that, is,
We have to answer it on Friday.
I'm sorry, come
Yeah,
on.
please go on. State your name. Go ahead.
Hello, Sherry Weber, for LLC. No, it would be, this one is the primary, obviously, this is the second one that was discussed. And that may be a different cost, because we were talking about it being decided, but change. Yeah, the second one, it almost seems like it probably be better to kind of keep that as a separate, make sure the township's happy with all of everything. This first, and
Sure, that's pretty much what we said a while back, was let's make sure we're good deal for this one before we sell it to somebody else.
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't mean that we were required to put it to the exact price structure.
Yeah, so it was slightly unclear about the amount we said, $18.50 for the first one, staff at $1,500 for the space. Could we have monthly $1,800?
And then we,
And then
we
500.
only got a second one, so we so far, so that's what you're asking.
And that's the one that
500 per month.
looks getting better soon.
Okay, so we're not going to take any action on this tonight, correct? Just going to move on. All right. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, approved letter prevailing on open space review board regarding transfer of development rights to the township. Caitlin, you want to come up and speak to this? Thank you.
Good morning, guests. I'm the chair of the Open Space Committee. The Open Space Committee has spent some time to prepare the draft letter to go out to owners of parcels in the township which are 10 acres or greater and are not either in the process of discussing with the township or reserve, or owned by the township, or owned by homeowners association. And the proposal was to have a relatively short letter to go out to homeowners to advise them that there are various methods of preserving the properties and to indicate the township does have open space funds which we can use to assist in the process. And, there's also an attachment, which either can be attached to the letter or it can be something that can be put on the website. There's a variety of means to preserve the property from transfer development rights, conservation easements, execute with the county. So there's a variety of things that can be done. And this is something that's basically to inform owners of parcels in the township that this is something they can do and it might be financially advantageous to them to do it. So you have a draft letter?
Yes, we do.
And you have to draft the draft.
One question, Jim, is sure. Will there be more information on the website as per the attachment to explain these?
There certainly can be.
Okay.
I mean, I would propose to put the attachment first, and then we can certainly flesh that out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of materials that Westminster Land Trust has, Pick has, on all of those subjects. So we can put as much on a website as you can possibly.
One of the points of this levy, though, so that the landowner is able to talk to.
Right.
That's correct.
And I see there's a phone number included, so phone calls, an interested party would call the township, and then they would then refer them on to you.
Or they can call me, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Just so there's a channel.
Right.
I think that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well,
Do you have a time frame that you're looking to try and get this out?
tomorrow would be great. Actually, it's something which will, I think a priority is to, there are certain larger landowners that are more of a priority to get them the letter onto them almost immediately. And then we continue with the list. I would expect it to take a few weeks to get letters out to everyone. So, not terribly long.
Okay, good. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the letter.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is, number 10, accept trail easement agreement with St. Max Lutheran Church for the Fellowship Trail.
I would like to make a motion to accept the trail easement agreement with St. Matthew's Lutheran Church for the Fellowship Trail.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, George, yours as well.
Quick, so where's it gonna go? We've been talking about this forever, so.
So this goes down, starts at the end where the Vineyard Church Trail comes.
Right.
It goes on the shared property line between the two churches.
Right.
Towards the woods.
Okay, so it goes behind the church.
And it goes behind the church, through the woods, and then along the edge of the fence.
All right. Oh, that's all right, that's good.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Number 11, authorized payment to St. Lutheran Church $150,000 for Fellowship Trail agreement.
I'll make a motion to authorize payment to St. Matthew's Lutheran Church in the amount of $15,000 for the Fellowship Trail agreement.
And I will second that.
Yeah, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Number 12, discuss amending ordinance to change Flint Road speed limit from 30 to 25 due to crosswalks.
Okay, so Ellen Scott came to see Chief and myself about Flint Road where she says there's speeders all the time. So Chief did a traffic study, and according to his traffic study, the speed limit should be set at 35. But she said that there are 2 natural land crosswalks on Flint Road and asked that we reduce the speed to 25. The problem we have right now is that the speed limit posted on Flint Road says 25, but our ordinance says 30. So either we have to change the speed sign to 30, or we have to change our ordinance to 25. Because she can't give out tickets because the ordinance doesn't match.
So I asked the board, then what's your pleasure?
Can we make a motion on that?
Sure.
I would like to make a motion to amend the ordinance to change Flint Road speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour due to crosswalks.
I will second that.
Okay.
But I will comment to that. I think due to crosswalks is not a good reason. I think due to traffic safety and the experience that she has with need to manage traffic. But the crosswalks are half a mile up the road. That's all. I think we need a more specific reason.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none.
Yeah,
Okay.
I snuck in right after. And I didn't get my seat
Julia Rendell, 2472 Flowing Springs Road. I think that the issue on that road is not the crosswalks and the speed limit, it's the blind hill is where her problem is. So maybe you do it because that is a blind hill, it's narrow, it's hard to pass. I will make one comment on her particular driveway is when she's pulling out of her driveway, she cannot see to the right because she's got a big, huge bush there. That's her problem. She needs to cut that thing down. I mean, okay, but yeah, because she comes in here and saying everybody's driving too fast, well, she can't see because she doesn't have.
And Mike Hogan spoke with her this morning again.
Okay.
Cutting it back, so she's gonna cut it back or he's gonna blow it back.
Oh, lovely. I think the issue is more the blind hill and the fact that that hill is very narrow, not the crosswalks. They are way down the road. Right, that you can't make the road any wider, really. Yeah. Well, that just doesn't make any sense. But it's the blind hill that's the problem. And her view out of the end of the driveway.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Approve the Beaver Hill Road stormwater remediation for $10,000, not including land.
You have to make a motion to have the solicitor amend and advertise the ordinance to change that road.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a motion to authorize the solicitor to amend and advertise the ordinance to change Flint Road speed limit from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour.
So we did before it's been a motion to discuss.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, you're making a motion that Jackie just said. Sure.
I'll make a motion to authorize the solicitor to amend and advertise the ordinance to change Flint Road speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour due to crosswalks and safety.
Do I hear a second? Okay, hold on, discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay. So 14, Beaver Hill Road stormwater remediation for $10,000, not including labor.
Yeah, Mike Hogan came to see me and explained that he needs to put in a pipe to run the stormwater under the driveway out to the creek. And the materials will cost $10,000. And labor is not included, but the public works are going to do it, so.
Can we use the ARPA funds for that?
We can use ARPA funds for stormwater remediation.
Do we need a motion for that then, or is that just for just?
Yeah, I think you should do it.
I'll approve that. Can I make a motion then to, approve the Beaver Hill?
It's right. Motion to approve Beaver Hill stormwater remediation for $10,000 plus labor.
I was second.
It's not plus labor. All right. Okay, second discussion. Please.
Once about the next thing, thank you, John. Just a clarification, you said cost, the text says not including, it's unclear who's going to pay for the labor. If you can clarify exactly what it is.
We will. The road crew's going to do the labor, so we will pay.
So it's separate under the regular payment that's already there. Okay. Yeah.
And I think this, my hopes that this is, it comes in less than that because there's actually estimated $5,400 for the inlets and the pipe and stuff, and the rest of it's equipment.
And we're not actually getting a bill from an outside source, it's our.
I just wanted to clarify the words.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Next, discuss historical remediation for 2559 Veronica Drive.
Yes, I had spoken to Ed about putting a yard drain in, and he provided these plans. And he provided an estimate for a third-party contractor between 6 and 10,000 to do that work. And then we got a second estimate from Cedarville to do it for $4,730. Again, we can use ARPA funds for stormwater remediation.
So, okay, after we do the motion, then I can get it split. If,
Are we making a motion on that one?
well, no, it says discuss, I'm sorry, okay. So,
Well, Mr. Barnes wants it, yeah, Mr. Barnes wants it fixed sooner rather than later.
Well, I guess then I would make a motion, for approving the cost of, I'm sorry, what was that?
$4,730.
$4,730 for stormwater remediation at 2559 Veronica Drive.
we'll second it. We have a manager's report which said we would go into LTO for the estimate. Now we have an estimate from Cedarville Engineering. This sounds like we're hiring them to do the work. And we usually don't do that. So what's going on here?
Well, the estimate I got from them was between $7,000 and $10,000. At the time, we were concerned for budgetary reasons, and that was before we learned that we could use ARPA funds for that. So I got a second opinion, a second bid, like I would do in any project, just so we have comparison. So, I mean, it doesn't matter to me which way the board decides to vote.
So because we don't have a comparison, because you didn't get the details from that.
Yeah, he gave me if you're going to use a third-party contractor, anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000 is what Ed's cost came in at. Right, but I mean, it's, but I think the rest decision.
The ability to compare those apples to apples and make sure we're getting everything we require for a couple $100 or want us to do a job that wasn't complete.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
One of the notes probably in your manager's report said it's probably a pre-existing drainage problem.
Yes.
If we fix this for 1 acre on Veronica Drive, are we opening the floodgates?
Well, I think that it's being exacerbated by the pool that's being built uphill from this property. So a lot of the stormwater runoff is coming through the silk sock, so he's getting running water down on the driveway. And then we shut them down so that they put in all the stormwater remediation they were supposed to do. And it seems like the storms we have anymore are much more fierce than what they used to be. So we get a lot of really heavy storms, and they put a berm in, and so the berm did was drive the water away from the driveway, but then deposited it onto the sidewalk where it went downhill onto Mr. Barnes's property. So we're ultimately responsible for the TDMLs in the township, and I think it's the responsible thing to do. If we can have a quick fix here to do it, because eventually we're going to have to find ways to get the TDMLs into storm.
For the benefit of the residents, we go to
It's the total daily mass load of stormwater runoff. So when it rains, the water's supposed to go out into the street and into the storm drains. So if it's not going there and it's going somewhere else, we need to redirect it so that it goes into the storm drain. That's a DEP thing.
Now, do we need to revise that motion because we specifically using amount? If that's not completely accurate, we need to just, within a certain range.
Within a certain range, yeah, say, anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000, depending what's what. And then we would also have to get a small easement on that property so that if it became clogged, we could go on.
what's the cost of the easement?
And you have to mark that.
What's the cost of an easement?
20-foot by 20-foot easement.
on property.
Very, very small amount.
Small amounts are, that's the issue. It's different than money.
It may behoove the property owner to grant
Yeah, I think,
alleviate stormwater management situation, and that actually has been the case for
Right.
several stormwater projects along township rights of way.
Yeah.
Township is correct, yes.
so if we're willing to fix the issue between the properties, I think it'll be amenable to getting us the easement.
Right, the easement will allow the township to maintain it.
Right.
So they will behoove any property owners that are allowed for that.
Is not proposing to put it in like in somebody's yard. And no, there's an inlet in the road, but this structure, somebody from LTL nicely provided, actually, that's not where it goes. The drawing on the next page shows it in that muddy patch on the yard. So this inlet in front of the uphill neighbor exists. And so, and that box exists and that pipe exists, so it's to put this in and that box in that yard. So that's what this shows, is this is the sidewalk. And
It's a
that's
yard
where the
drain.
inlet, where the 2x2 yard inlet. So, I
you propose to change that to make it cover, giving you the latitude to be able to, choose the adequate way to get it done and allow for if an easement is needed. It's not doing it.
what to suggest that we ask the owner to provide it.
And don't want to have a subject opinion on that one, if it will make it a
Yeah, you
problem
can
for
just make it,
erosion.
you could say, up to $10,000.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you try that then? I would like to make a motion to, approve stormwater remediation at 2559 New Rockland Drive at a cost not to exceed $10,000 using appropriate source to do it correctly.
Sarah?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
So, yeah, the discussion is that if an easement is necessary, we come out of that $10,000.
Well, okay.
Well, that's what I'm asking, because
Yeah,
I thought,
that's what I'm thinking.
okay, because I thought we were going to discuss the easement, but if we don't, that's fine.
I mean, that's up to the manager to negotiate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. See no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Discuss procedures for boards and commissions. Becky?
Well, I think there's some disconnect about the role that boards and the liaisons play for each committee. So, the committee is established as a recommending body to the township board. And so if the committee gets together and they decide, hey, we want to have a movie night in the park, we want to have popcorn, we want to have this, we want to have that, then they would have their liaison bring that to me so that I can bring it to the board and say, this is what this committee is proposing, this is what the costs will be, and then the board can decide, okay, yeah, that's good, or maybe we need to rethink this. And go back to the committee and say, hey, this is the feedback I got back from the board. And like with the open space committee and this letter they want to send out to the PBRs, that's been going back and forth for a while. So I just think that if we establish the rules that these committees can give this information to myself directly or to the liaison, and then that'll be passed on to the board, then we have a straight path forward for getting ideas and discussions put before the board.
Good. Anything else?
Thank you for clarifying that. Will it go out to all of the committees?
Yeah,
Moving forward, discuss possible severance payment to township manager John Ranger, who resigned on June 12, 2023. So I wasn't here for the last meeting, but my understanding was that there was a request for this, and I would like to make a motion that we do not approve anything to former manager as part of employment services, vacation, all of it. Any discussion?
Technology and 1201 Davis Lane. I had some personal experience which relates to this particular council action. I was the CEO of a 1,500 employee corporation. I was fired. The board of directors, roughly analogous to this board, did not want to publicize the fact that I was being fired. And so they offered me the choice of publicly being fired or resigning. And of course, I chose resigning. And as part of that, they wanted to give me a separation income. I believe it was 6 months. And it would be announced that I had resigned and had 6 months severance pay and continuation through the calendar year of my medical benefits. It's different, for profit or governmental organization. But to me, it would make, I understand that Mr. Granger was led to believe that he would get a separation payment and not to give that to him would seem to me an inappropriate action of the township.
Thank you. Anyone else? George?
So, it seems 2 meetings ago, we were gun fan. And 1 meeting ago, we weren't sure if we were going to pay him. Tonight, it sounds like you don't want to pay him. Did some new information come to light in the last month?
No.
Okay. So, what is there a?
I would disagree with that.
Oh, please.
Yeah, I would say that the new information is that, at one point, we were under the impression that we had to give him based on the contract that is not existing. And, no one ever told him directly, I think the only person that ever told him was getting that, was Bernie, because he thought that, he had been told that, and it had never been voted on. And
But what contract was, didn't have a contract?
No, we were under the impression that it continued because we reappointed him.
But
that is not correct. That is not true.
that's not true, but in his contract, there was no severance payment or resignation.
He had a severance clause in
Yeah.
Or termination, but not resignation.
Correct. Originally, it was termination.
but he resigned. But at that point, when you resigned, why were you considering giving him a payment?
It was actually never considering, nothing.
Wait a minute, come on.
I'm not the board.
I understand.
George, I made a mistake. Thinking that the contract was still a contract. That's it.
So he was,
There's nothing nefarious here.
so he was
I
terminated.
made a mistake. Can you accept that?
I can accept that you made a mistake, but I didn't sound like it was just you. I mean,
No, it's just me. And then I wasn't here for last week.
In fairness, I've been told that that was the case. So, and I know that, you know, speaking with Mark, he felt that that was the appropriate thing to do to extend the contract, but I think that was.
so who was telling you that he had that in his contract? There was no, ATMs, Bernie, you didn't have the contract, apparently someone told you.
Well,
Did you have,
we're not gonna talk about.
okay, well, you have that information, so
Council, the board is now has a motion before it, to pay to, I don't know the exact wording of it, but it's wording to be that, to not make any further payments to Mr. Granger, part of his services that were rendered to the township. So that's the motion that's before the board. Whether or not the board believed at any point in time, or any individual member believed that there was a contract that required them to pay severance to Mr. Granger is immaterial to the issue that's before the board right now.
well, I would say that, not only should you not be paying him, but I mean, I looked at some of his credit card transactions, and it seems like he should be paying us back some money. I mean, I'm looking at this, it's like in a week in Phoenixville at restaurants, $300. Did he have business every day in Phoenixville in April? I think not. Says John Granger. I don't know what else, I mean, I'm looking at
The
stuff.
township credit card is in his name, so all the charges will say John Granger. like it's a
Somebody
township.
else in the township was eating out in Phoenixville every day in April?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Did you get the credit cards on the right to know?
I asked for them, yes.
Yeah, because it probably gives you more information on that.
I
No, it
can't
doesn't.
speak to
It says
that
it's
because
John
I've
Granger.
never seen those. I'd love to see them.
I don't. I think it's easier for you to get them from me.
I don't go around asking my manager for his expense report,
You
you know.
probably should in this
so,
case.
You know, I didn't know that.
I mean, I'm looking at, I think you should review all of his actions while he was here. I mean, I'm looking at his reimbursement for a train set for $600. What was that for?
He brought a complete train set for layout in the lobby.
Where is that train set now?
George, yes.
So we have it?
We have it. That was something he did on his own.
Well,
He did not.
he was reimbursed for it.
Christina. Christina.
Okay, George, you want to explain the train set?
Sure.
No, just where it is.
Oh, where it is? Parts of it are upstairs in storage. The engine that you saw was broken, so that's no longer in use. Yes. That was the night that you guys.
I'm not sure why we needed a train set that.
We were trying to
I've been doing a train set
Well,
for
I
a
just
little
think-
while.
Anyway, I'm not quite sure why we shifted. I think it's the right decision to not pay him, and I think he owes us money.
Thank you.
And I wish a month ago we were at this point. I don't understand what the reason for even thinking about it.
I don't know what part I made a mistake, but you don't understand, you know, so. I'm telling you, I made a mistake.
All right.
One, I'd like to thank you for actually considering this motion and working on this. I'm sure probably 2 out of 3 will vote in the proper direction. The second thing is, as supervisors, you're supposed to supervise and you should be looking into things like this. I'd like to thank George Delachinos for being the one that brought up the fact about this contract and that he shouldn't get paid under the terms of the old contract, which that is what you guys said that you were working on. You were assuming that it was going to be operating under the terms of the old contract, which said that if you resigned, then he didn't get paid. So I'd like to thank George for actually pointing that out to the supervisors and then taking it under consideration. And I hope the rest of you appreciate it also.
Just a really quick question, Julie Brendel, 24/7/2023. Since the date of his resignation, has he been paid anything or any benefits paid for or anything like that?
He was paid for his final week of pay because we get paid a week behind. His dental insurance was paid.
Which was, when I read the contract, I said, let's dental for that, but we finally gave him one last.
And that's water and bridge at this point.
I think we need to move on.
Right, so there haven't been any additional payments then? So the severance was gonna be like a lump, when it was agreed upon or when it was voted on, it would have been a lump sum then. But
I don't think we ever discussed that.
right, okay, all right, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, oh, yeah, we can vote. All in favor? Aye. Sarah? Opposed? Okay.
Would you like to move on?
No, Sarah, unless you want to make an announcement.
I just wanted to say, I'm concerned about the legal jeopardy of this one.
Okay, so, yep. Yeah. Okay. Number 18, TDML MS4 application, which is due by August 2023. Jackie, did you discuss?
Yes, it came to my attention that we have gotten waivers for our MS4 program for the past 20 years in 5-year increments. And Cedarville has done these for us in the past.
Can you just describe the septic system MS4? I know that's lost on everybody. I have to look it up.
The MS4 program is the stormwater management. I talked earlier about TDMLs, and it's the township's responsibility to make sure that stormwater is getting into the storm drains without polluting the streams and waterways. And so, we need to come up with what's called an MS4 plan, which our engineer will have to draw up for us, and then we'll have to implement to take these waters from the surface and get them where they need to go to keep, the streams and the ecosystem and everything healthy. And DEP years ago mandated that every municipality had to have an MS4 plan. But because our population was under a certain number, I think it was 8,000, was it 8,000? It was a certain population that you had to have, so we were able to get waivers.
There was waiver criteria, Westminster met that criteria.
Right, so we were able to get waivers for the past 20 years. However, I found out just 2 days ago that the current waiver we have is going to expire on August 21st or 23rd, 2023. So we have to quickly file another waiver so that we have time to get the engineers to put the MS4 plan together. And these waiver renewals, when I tell you it's an application, it's about the size of an old yellow phone book. I mean, it's a lot of work and testing. A lot of this stuff has already been done, but they'll have to passed up to date. So, I'm looking for the board to approve, having, Cedarville, who did it in the past, apply again for a permanent waiver for the MS4 program.
I believe that LTL was previously asked to undertake that task, but you discussed it that way, taking it away from them.
I'm not taking anything away. I went and pulled the old permits that were filed for the waivers, and they all say Cedarville.
But it would only been the last one at most, that would have been Cedarville, because we had to bring it.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter to me who does it, we just need to get it done quickly. I just thought instead of creating the wheels, people have done work, I guess, and you can pull from what they've done.
We're going to different directions, I'm here to argue about,
Yeah,
pretty good done. Yeah, the waiver expires in February 2024, it's a 5-year waiver, the application for it is supposed to be in August sometime.
Yeah.
Like 6 months before the waiver expires, so it gives DEP time to review it. So what we normally do is ask for the last information, if somebody different from us did it, we would ask to see what you had submitted before.
Right.
Start the application and prepare it.
Sounds like it's not a lot of time, you don't feel that's an issue.
It's administrative, it's forms you fill out, DEP has waiver forms and things like that, and we would ask if Cedarville did it before, we discussed this with the previous manager, and to talk that towards August and a 6-month period, then we discussed that when the manager left, our monthly meetings stopped, and now we're in transition, so. So we would be asking for the Cedarville bid, we'd be asking for your files and what was submitted before to do it officially. I mean, that's how we would approach it.
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so if you don't have any decision now, why don't you make that on your own, and then I just want to announce that we're going to have a workshop on stormwater, or ground, gravel roads, on August 5th, 7 p.m. August 5th here, and we'll be discussing that.
However you want to, it doesn't matter. We'll do it if you want to.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
So is that the next time?
Okay.
Can I ask you a quick question first? August 5th is Saturday. Are you having workshop on Saturday?
It's the 7th.
7th, okay.
I couldn't understand anything. Okay.
Vic Lawback and her husband, Mike Muller. And Mike Hogan will be here. And Mike Hogan will also be here to discuss, the gravel roads and, how the gravel runs into the Pickering and French Creek and they're impaired. So it's a discussion we need to have and decide, as a township, what's the best thing to do for the environment and the folks who live here.
Okay.
And we've got Martha.
Last thing on the agenda is, comment from the general public. Anyone? I'm going to take numbers here. Route 1634, South Road in America. What's the status of getting a manager, a township manager? What's the status of getting a manager? Jackie? I thought she was acting township manager and she was the treasurer. Interim township manager. So just, do you look for a new manager or what does that mean? Interim for 6 months. We're not looking currently. We're satisfied with where we're at. We'll let you know when things develop. Okay. Thank you.
So I want to thank the board for
name, sir?
Craig Kirkowski, 1684 Cedar Mill Road. And I want to thank the board for not paying John Granger, because if it were for John Granger on his paperwork and what he should do, I'd have my building permit now. I'm in since April, when we turned in for this permit, April 14th, and 6 to 8 weeks prior to that, John Granger never returned any of my calls. And I do have them documented because my secretary and wife has everything detailed. So I'm glad. I'm glad he didn't get paid. He didn't deserve to get paid.
Now, so, if I could just ask you, why haven't you come to the board before this time?
We did. We're trying to work with Jackie, and Jackie's been very helpful. And Christine has been very helpful, trying to get this through. We got our first letter April 26th from LTL. We had several items on there that we had to do that we were unaware of that we did. We completed all the things that they asked. We got another letter on May 17th from LTL, and we had 5 more things to do and get to the recorder of deeds in Westchester, which my wife and I expedited it within a week actually. Then we got another letter from LTL on June 27th. So the letters keep coming. And we're very frustrated because I feel like the construction process within the township has failed. It's failed me and my wife as future homeowners. I've been in the construction business for myself, self-employed since 1979. I work in Villanova, Radnor. I get a 2-week turnaround time on most of my permits, 3 weeks even if I have a stormwater management problem. I just did a pavilion in Valley Forge. I got my turnaround on my stormwater management within 1 week. It was I had to requisite something that we didn't do, and it turned around. The process has failed me and my wife as future taxpayers. I'll tell you that first of all. We're extremely frustrated. We should have a building permit. We have lost a minimum of 3 months here that we have great weather that we could be building. We had requested another letter from the township before someone went on vacation. And they told us we had it, and then we didn't get it. Then when we requested a letter, we were told that it wasn't of high importance and that there wasn't that they had more priorities than to fulfill the obligation of the township residents, future taxpayers, that they had higher priorities to get that letter. Now, they were mad and called Christina and told her that they wanted to call us and they wanted to let their frustration out on us. Well, as a taxpayer, don't bother calling me because I have a lawyer too. So we're frustrated, and we should be. And we have so many requirements. I have a whole speech that I could go on, but it's late. I don't want to keep people and bore people. But we're going to need to sit down with Jackie again and go over this because there's so many requirements that we're being asked to do. And one of the biggest ones here is page 6 of this letter that we got from LTL was provide a note on sheet 1, Grand Township representatives a blanket easement to access on our property. We don't want to give blanket easement to anybody. I paid $435,000 for 15 acres, and I've worked 25, 30 years to get that far. So I don't want to give anybody blanket easement. If someone wants to come on my property, just like it on your property, I would call you and say, hey, we need to come on there, we need to inspect this. It doesn't look correct. I'm not going to just have somebody walk on my property. It's not going to happen. But, I mean, we have more paperwork than I've ever seen. I mean, I just got a permit for Lower Marion, which is a huge township. I have no pool in the township, and I got a permit within 2 weeks. So, I'm just saying that it needs to get expedited. We're future taxpayers, we're future voters. We know a lot of people in the township, and we want to get our permit. We want it released.
Where's the property that we're talking about?
1684 Cedar Mill Road. There was some parameters that we had to work around, some greenway easements and some languages and stuff. But everything that we were asked to do, we literally took off work to do it. Now luckily I work for myself, so I can just take off when I want, but I don't get paid if I don't work. My wife works for a pharmaceutical. She just took off and we run the Westchester. We do whatever we were asked to do. We've turned it around immediately. But we feel that we're not getting that same response. And that's not fair to us. And to be disrespected by someone on the board, that's totally unreasonable. I don't care who you are. I don't care. Someone sitting up front. I'm not going to get into it because we probably still need them more than they need us to get the paperwork done.
Hey, do you know anything of this?
Yeah, I can explain that. There were 3 LTL letters. I guess the first letter, the Markowskis submitted a plan for grading permit. So they bought a lot that was, I guess, lot 1, I believe it's lot 1 of the Nizio subdivision, which was done 15, 20 years ago. That subdivision had a greenway line on it. Greenway is essentially open space. It had a greenway line on it in 2 different areas. The Nizios, or I'm sorry, the Markowskis submitted their first grading plan to build the house partially within the greenway lane, which is not compliant, not consistent with the zoning ordinance. So the first letter I wrote basically said that. We have a problem here, explained the history of the Nizio subdivision, and said the greenway line needs to be changed if they need to build their house where it is, or they could relocate their house to comply. So I believe they chose to leave the house where it was. So, so I wrote that first letter, I forget the date, April or something like that. Yeah, so then that letter was out, so then I think the next step was, well, how do you change the greenway line? Or can you change the greenway line? So eventually there was a meeting here that I attended. I guess we're trying to get hold of the manager at that point and facilitate this. So then the second letter I wrote was, they had a greenway modification plan prepared by their engineer. That plan was submitted, so I wrote a letter on that as requested. But I outlined pretty much that the line was fine, it was pretty much an equal change in area and all that. Had some new corners to it and things like that. And then there's a conservation easement that the zoning ordinance requires. That second letter was on the greenway line issue, which was the plan that I think the board just approved in recent months. That was the second letter. That got approved. I believe the plan is getting recorded or was recorded, and this easement document is still being reviewed.
The letter was recorded, so for the Westchester County, and got that recorded.
Right. So then the greenway was on the path, the engineering of the greenway was done, it's just, legal and administrative issues. So then the next thing was, okay, they can build their house at that location that they wanted, so now I reviewed the engineering for the grading permit, the erosion control, stormwater issues, so I reviewed that, and that was the third letter. So that letter went out, I think within a day or two of the getting the go-ahead. So now I think the next step is for your engineer to just tweak a couple things on the plan.
We had them hold off because we are not in agreement with a blanket access. There's some amendments on some of the wording in the agreement that we would just open our land up to. One of them is if there's a walking trail on an adjoining property, that we would give up, the township would have the right to connect that trail through our property. Well, there is no walking trail on another adjacent property anywhere around it. A horse trail, no walking trail, no. That's in there, yes.
This is the conservation easement, not the, there's a stormwater agreement. I thought you were talking about stormwater.
We are talking
The stormwater agreement is a boilerplate document from Chester County, which probably came from DEP and the model ordinances. So it's a model stormwater agreement that's there to make it user-friendly, customer-friendly. So that's, the DEP model ordinance, the county model ordinance, all require, if you're gonna build a stormwater best management practice, that there be an easement of some form so that the township have the right, but not the duty to go in there and look at it if you need to. So it can be an easement that's by meets and bounds, or the way most surveyors or engineers do it, they just write a note on there saying we offer a blanket easement for the township to come in and inspect. Well, I believe
That's the same.
that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
So that's,
It keeps us as the grantor, giving the township the grantee to do that.
so that's just my understanding of the model agreement. It's just to give the township staff or whoever they want to inspect in the future the ability to go in there and look at the structure and see, is it being maintained as per the plan. And that's a requirement of the county and the township stormwater ordinance. So I guess you could ask for a waiver, or
So it's a requirement that every 3 years you come in and inspect it. Okay. It's a requirement that you inspect it. If we've already paid $2,700 in permit fees, there's a 250 feet for you to come in and inspect it again.
that's the township's fee schedule resolution.
And there's a $10,000 escrow fee where you get to come in and do the inspections during the project.
That's the township's policy for.
Well, no, that's not the township's policy. That's a recommended policy. That's a recommendation. You have your recommendation, it applies below.
Right.
And if I go to the back of the township's policy, it says consulting fees will be billed separately when applicable, or an escrow account will be established. So it's up to you and the township to say, yeah, we're gonna put it in escrow or we're not.
Right. The background on this is the ordinance has a financial security clause in it. So I was asked the township for direction when we started this, that instead of having actual construction costs for all these stormwater facilities, erosion control and grading, which the actual cost to do all this work many times is like $30,000, $50,000, $70,000. So I was advised, let's just make a number, it's $10,000, that with some security, that gives the township some sort of leverage, make sure things are done, fees are paid. So that's where the $10,000 comes from. It's just a recommendation to meet the terms of the ordinance. That's what's been done for the last 2.5 years. And it's to have some security, but not, like the ordinance says, secure all the improvements, which is big numbers.
Okay, so this thing is moving along. It's just it's taking its normal course. Ed has been responding to.
I would not say that it has not been responded to yet. Okay. We pushed a little, got a hold of him at the time, but he is responding.
Okay, good.
I won't say it today. Do I like what he responds with? No. Because you know what, $10,000 to me, wow. I could drop my name, $10,000. And for someone to have a blank check at like $10,000 to do inspections, I'm not sure I'm for that. Whether that's an approved thing with the board or not, I don't think you would put $10,000 in my pocket.
What, yes, yeah, what we do is we send you copies of the bills that we're deducting from your escrow. You have 90 days to review that and contest it if you disagree with it. So it's not like we just take money out of your escrow. So if we get a bill from an engineer or solicitor regarding your particular project, we then send you a letter and say, here's Ed's bill, here's Mark's bill, this is what we're going to deduct in 90 days. And if you want to contest it, you can do that. So we don't take it out and just arbitrarily take your money away. It's just, Yeah, it's because some people won't pay, so if we don't have the escrow and I send you a bill saying, you owe me $3,000 for this, you're like, I'm not paying that, and then we don't have any way to collect it. So then the taxpayers pay for it, and that's not fair.
The way I was instructed to inspect these things was to have somebody go out every 2 to 3 weeks during the course of construction. I don't feel, we don't decide when we inspect, we leave that up to our clients to tell us the reasonable frequency and all that stuff.
Well, I guess on the front end of it, the first 6 items on there are already on my building plan. It's approved, it's just sitting in the desk there, confiscation, I think. So those things are on the plan. So Matt Spellman is the building inspector, when he comes out, he can shut that job down anytime. He can say, you're not in compliance with, say, the silt top, or you're not in compliance with the storm management, the way you designed this design. He can shut it down. So now we have 2 people telling us, 2 people are going to inspect the same thing. That's conflict of interest.
Yeah, but they're not gonna shut anything down until they talk to the township.
I understand that.
I mean, I would, yeah, it wouldn't be a conflict of interest because I'm Switzerland. And I would review those sides, absolutely.
All right, you're dealing with a zoning ordinance, a zoning permit, dealing with the zoning ordinance, zoning permit, building code, the grading and stormwater permits, the stormwater ordinance, so it gets into, and given the legal nuances, and the building inspector shut you down because of, stormwater and erosion control issue, that's.
It just seems like there's a lot of hands in the cookie jar, and there's not a lot of direction. The first time I heard it, I was gonna get a detailed invoice that 9 days.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I would, just take money.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Qualified our 16 road. Just tying a couple of things together from a very part of the meeting that this is, this is for items other than what was discussed in the agenda. These are non-agenda item discussions. So clarification on the second tower that's being talked about is out of order. At this point, yeah, it is. I've shut other people down, so I'm sorry, I got to shut you down. Helpful. Where can we go to have the next discussion on this second tower? Other discussions around that, what's the right time? When we know something ourselves. Right now, we don't know anything at all.
The second tower is not really
Yeah.
in play right now.
But the words came up. Yeah, but, there's nothing, we don't know anything. I'm sure you know more. No, we don't. There's no reason at all for us to sit up here and BS you. We just, throwing ideas around, that's all. We know there is cell access here in the township, and then, we need to do something about it. That's where we're at. Say that the tenor of your statement right now is not in line with the tenor of the comments made otherwise, so appreciate that. Thanks. Okay.
Just a couple quick things. Very liberal, 10, 12, 5, 7, 5. Real quick, the Markham issue was under civil investigation. There's an investigation going on, a civil investigation that I received on a right to know. Is that still going on?
The report that was completed is the final report of Markham, so that's.
It is clear. Okay, good. And good news, there was no fraud, right?
Correct.
Fantastic. Okay.
So, I guess this is just going back,
Going back.
what's that?
Going back.
Yeah. Well, I have a letter here. I guess I'll just make this a public comment. I got a copy of an email that was sent to the township in October 2022. It was a overdue payment reminder for an Amazon pay by invoice account that the township has. I don't want to get this wrong, but the item that was ordered was called Women's Sexy French Maid Costume Anime Cosplay Lingerie Outfit Role Play Dress Naughty Lace Apron. And this was billed to the township. And I guess what I want to know is, was this paid for? It was sent to a Grand County Martin, I believe was a former employee. And it said the credit card was denied and the township was invoiced for the amount. And I guess what I want to know, I can't tell, did we pay that?
Did we pay that? That issue went to, just, is that okay? Yes, go ahead. That issue went to police, went to the DA, and they just said, for $20.
So we did pay it.
$20, yeah. Now, the issue was brought up by the DA, district attorney, that it could have been her ordering from her regular Amazon account and just got mixed up, because they found that there was no other use of the credit card from her, by her.
So just to clarify, that was a charge that previous township employees paid using an Amazon account, and you can never quite tell if it was the township's Amazon.
The township got the invoice.
Her Amazon account.
It was
Like I said,
definitely
a
the
former
township.
township employee that was terminated during that time frame.
I understand that this, if I look at the minutes, she was not an employee of the township after September. This is in October 25th.
I can only say that it was a charge that she made because of the billing cycle. Maybe it was.
That's it, they paid the order.
It is
She still had access to the card.
Months after she was.
And we'd like to think that that was the Halloween
This,
costume.
and this is not considered. I don't see how.
Just to clarify at the time, the actions that employee took, which included various credit card issues, I think that charge.
I don't know. I have
The
no idea.
charge that she was responsible for certainly had nothing to do. We did refer that to the district attorney's office, the county detectives. They did an investigation during that time frame to determine if there was any fraud in their opinions, and they did not move forward with any charges.
But were the Markham people aware of this?
Yes.
And they did not consider this a loss of township funds?
So at the time, there was a discussion as to whether or not to try to recover that fee from the former employee, and my understanding was that the former manager made a decision that it was not worth the effort of the township.
I understand that, but I don't understand.
The current administration may be reviewing that.
George Benson, and that was the tip of the iceberg about.
That's my concern.
Why we went forward with this audit.
Yeah, that's my concern, but why,
Things like
but now I
this that
call.
were discovered by the board, and we made the decision that we needed to thoroughly investigate to see if there was anything else that we needed to know.
This kind of call into question that letter that they sent where there was no funds lost. Clearly, that's not right. They should have said, there's some amount of funds lost, we didn't consider it significant. Maybe you could say that, but why would they have said there were no funds lost? Were they asked to say that?
No, that was, they were aware of this charge. It was something that was de minimis, and we could never tell if it was actually a malicious intent for her to actually use the township's credit card, and whether or not she thought she was using her own Amazon account. So, like I said, we referred this to law enforcement. They decided that there wasn't any action that they were going to take.
Yeah,
So
I'm concerned
the
that,
employee had already been terminated.
concerned that we paid for a report and it's, it's actually wrong. It might have been insignificant, but I don't understand why they wouldn't say that. It was.
All I can say
That's
is.
my concern, you know, we paid him 25 grand. And did we shape the report in any way?
Not at all.
For 3 months to get it. Right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.